Okay, let's see. What can I show you guys? Who's seen any of my tricks? Okay. No one else? Okay. Cards or money?
Money.
Fair, fair. Okay, so you want me to play with your money or my money?
Your money.
I mean, I had this amazing trick for you guys. If it was your money, I would make it disappear. No? Okay, that's fine. I guess we need to, I thought there was supposed to be a bar here to get you guys drunk a little bit so I could, no? I guess not. It's okay. So I'll play with my money. How about that? Okay. I do have long sleeves, so you guys have to bear with me. But just remember, just fill my sleeves. There's nothing in it, right? They always like a woman touch. No, I'm kidding. That was a joke. This is a very, very simple trick. It does require a very unique sleight of hand. But can everybody see me right here? So I'm going to kind of step this back a little bit just so I have a little bit of room to move around. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 $100 bills. You guys agree?
No.
See, that's why we need alcohol. Monica, as our team leader, next class, a bar right at that corner, okay? Because I want people to have as many shots as possible before I start a magic trick.
Well, I don't drink, so you'll still get the same answer.
We'll figure something out for you. So, okay, so would you guys agree it's 500 pennies?
Yeah.
Give or take, right? Did I ever tell you guys a story about Peter Pan? And what's the little fairy? Tinkerbell. There you go. I did?
No. You did, yeah.
You did? Okay. Yeah, the fairy dust, right? Yeah, so I mean, always have fairy dust in my pocket, So I'm going to take some out. I'm going to drop some in. Snap my fingers. You should start seeing it changing into hundreds. Do you guys? No? No? I'm going to just square them off. Do you see changing into hundreds? Okay. Nothing? So you probably think it's a bunch of ones wrapped around a $100 bill. All right, so I'll just show them to you. 100, 200, 300, 400, $500. You see why I don't work much?
Yeah, I would love that too.
Yeah, because I mean, this is what I do all day. Whenever I need some money, I just borrow a couple of dollars, make them into hundreds, and basically, pay them back the $4 or $5. It's a very, very lucrative business that I'm in. Thank you. So I love using that money trick because real estate is pretty much the same. If you can execute a deal, you can make your investors a lot of money, right? Would you agree? But I had an agent call me the other day regarding, how I could get better at the sales technique and negotiation tactics. We do teach that element, but I don't want I don't want us to get caught up in sales without understanding the brass tacks of a deal. Right? Hence, this is the reason why we put together this class format. You guys all took the introduction class. There was a lot of information that I have given you guys. And we're going to basically kind of freshen up a little bit on it and move forward with this. This is actually the second section, okay? Remember when I told you? Actually, let me move to the... So, last time we had the intro class, which is the initial step. We have the core sections that we're going to get into right now, which is a 3-part section. The first section is the property, which we're actually going to get into. The other 2 will follow in the next couple of weeks, but we will give you guys as much information as possible on that side. Okay? So we actually got a multifamily asset that we're going to analyze, okay? Like I said, the first step is understanding the property and conducting your due diligence, right? Now, this is actually a property right here in Downey. There should be a property profile for you. There should be just a quick summary of income and expenses and a cap table, and as well as this PowerPoint presentation, right? Do you guys all have that? Okay, perfect. So one of the things that you guys will do in the property section of your pitch deck is put something like this together. You'll have the aerial map. You'll have two parts. One is a actual satellite view. One is just an aerial map, like I have it right here. It's good to understand the neighborhood where the property is located. What type of facilities and access to those facilities, is it walking distance or not, so on and so on. So this property is actually at the border of Downey, but it's in the Downey side. Across the street is Paramount. If you cross the street again, it's the city of Bellflower. So it's in a weird triangle area, but the location is very attractive because one, it has all the amenities that a potential household can actually have access to. We have Walmart right across the street. We have about 11 to 12 fast food restaurants from Subway, El Pollo Loco, McDonald's, Taco Bell, Carl's Jr., Yoshinoya, El Pollo Loco, all of these different elements. And these are all walking distance, and of course, if you want liquor, you could go right across the street for a liquor store. But we also have food for less. Groceries are very important, and food for less, which is walking distance, really appeals to the housing market. I'm just going to go to the next one real quick. So the property address is 13525 Deming Avenue, Downey, California. The zip code is actually 90242. Okay. I want you to just put down the zip code just so you have it. Some of this data I actually brought directly from the property profile, okay? The lot size, the building square footage is directly from the public records, okay? So it's a 21,000 square foot lot with almost a 13,000 square foot building, okay? Now, the specs is 20 units. 10 of them are 2-bedroom, 1-bath. 10 of them are 1-bedroom, 1-bath, which is very, very attractive when you talk about multifamily, okay? There's a risk element right here that's important that a lot of investors look at, but we're going to get into that on the market segment. But because of the unique unit mix, this property definitely is attractive for a broader range of investors that are in the multifamily segment, okay? Just food for thought that I'm going to give you on the market analysis course. I might have mentioned in the intro class that the city of Downey household size is about 3 people, right? Do you guys recall I mentioned that? So what did I tell you guys if you have a bunch of studios in the city of Downey? What is the risk? There you go, absolutely. Any other risk? Because of the vacancy factor, absolutely. You would have to put more money down. But yeah. So cost of repairs will also increase because if you have a high turnover, what happens? You have to prep the place. You would have to release it. So not only are you having cost of repairs, but you're also having cost of vacancy, which increases the risk for an investor, okay? So that's something that you guys always have to keep in mind because this is a qualitative element that a lot of people are not really taught, And that's a risk factor that investors like myself, my family, and my investors that I work with look at, and we have to address it because of that reason. We have 26 parking spaces. This is just a carport. Amenities, We only have a coin-operated laundry facility with 2 washers and dryers. It's actually run by a third-party web services, what they call. And basically, they'll come in, maintain it, take care of everything. It just made it more economical for us to handle it. Keep in mind, this is a property that we manage ourselves, and been in one of my family members' portfolio for about 35 years, give or take.
What
So.
service is digital, right?
Huh?
Digital? You pay with a card?
No. It's coin operated. So you need quarters. So yes, we have to go to the bank all the time, pick up a lot of quarters. It was built in 1958. Okay, so it is a pretty old building. So some of the amenities, services, the parking space, not actually fully up to par. You know, like it was back then. Zoning. The reason I put this because there's an element here that really does help us understand the maximum density that properties can be built. Now, our job as realtors, real estate professionals, is to figure out what is the highest and best use for a property. Sometimes what's there is the highest and best use. Sometimes the highest and best use is to redevelop, you know. Of course, this is not a class on redevelopment. I want you to keep that in mind because this is something that you always have to keep an eye out for. Any questions up to now? Okay, so I took a bunch of pictures. As you can tell, this is a pretty standard building. Nothing fancy about it. It's pretty much of a square building. You noticed that there's a garden in the middle of the building. It used to be a pool. For liability purposes, the owners decided to actually fill it in and put some holes at the bottom of the pool, fill it in with dirt, and actually make it into, you know, pretty much this. You know, we still have the fence. Believe it or not, it reduces operational expenses, and because of the building, the architectural features of the building, because it's enclosed and you have a pool in the center. It just became a really big nuisance. Just being very loud, kids jumping in the pool, you know, people getting a little wild. So we decided to go this route. It just made it more financial sense for us to do this. Now, so as you can tell at the top left corner, we have the coin-operated amenities that's on the property. Also wanted to take some pictures of the utilities that's there. So there's outside of trash, there's 3 major utilities, right? What do we have? Water, gas, electric, correct? This is very important to understand how those utilities are assessed on a property. And what I mean by that is, you know, for example, we have a central water system. That means there's a high cost for the landlord to manage the water bill because he pays for the water for all the units, plus the common areas, right? Now, gas and electric, which is also common that they're all individually metered, you know, just because you don't want to take on that responsibility. But if some buildings are, you know, like student housing facilities, some of them at least, actually have everything incorporated into their monthly payment, right? But in this case, you just need to understand what type of expenses that you're going to have to incur in the process of conducting your due diligence, and when you buy the property, what type of expenses that you would have to pay. The lease types, I will actually send you guys a sample lease agreement. Who done leases before? Residential leases. We know you did. So, I mean, you do understand there's only 2 types of leases in housing product. Can you guys name them?
Month to month,
Mm-hmm.
a year or more, or a year or more.
Term lease, what they call. So we have month to month and term. just for disclosure purposes, month to month is a lot more, there's a lot less disclosure requirements in comparison to term lease, okay? So we like the month to month because it's just, if we want to kick somebody out, we could kick somebody out. If there's any issues, we could actually handle it. The downfall of month to month is that a tenant can just get up and go whenever they want, Secondly, the term lease, you're stuck with that person, and it's just, it just makes it more difficult, and especially if there are landlords that are not as equipped to disclose a lot of facts. And term leases are attractive for the higher end, but for this type of property, I think we actually benefited on the month-to-month lease. There's a document that I sent you regarding the current rent rolls, expenses. Can you guys pull that up real quick? I'm going to just switch this off, and I'm going to come back to it real quick because I wanted to kind of walk you through this. Okay, what happened? Okay, why doesn't it show up? Huh? It should pop up. Okay, you know something? You guys have it in front of you, right?
Correct.
So I gave you guys what units are 2 bedrooms, what units are 1 bedrooms. I also gave you guys the current rents, the current deposits, and what our annual income is. Right now it's 100% occupied. Now, we did what we call a BOE at the last introduction class. I want you to look at this document and tell me what's wrong. What you see that's missing. Okay. And pro forma we won't get to until we do the market analysis, by the way.
Vacancy.
Got it. Okay, that's one. What is the second one? Actually, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. It might be. So, huh?
You have last month's rent here, you don't have.
So we basically just take a deposit, so we don't take first and last month because most tenants automatically assume that because you asked for last month's rent, that they don't have to pay, or it becomes a burdensome for us to actually go after them if they decide to give more problems. So we just do a deposit, no last month's rent, and go from there, And keep in mind, this is a C-class building. We vet out tenants very carefully. The rents are lower. We're about 15% below market. Yeah. The reason we do it this way, okay, so risk element. We're going to touch the risk element right here, okay? What happens if you're at market rent and a tenant decides to leave? He could find another place, right? He could just get up and move. I'll give you a prime example. About 30 days ago, I actually had a tenant come to me and complain. And he basically threatened that he was going to move. I'm like, my first statement to him was like, well, you know something? It's unfortunate that you feel that way, but if you want us to give you a recommendation letter, please let us know. We'll give it to you. Huffed and puffed, 2-3 weeks went by. He's not leaving. You know why? He can't find another place at the lower price. That's how investors hedge against risk. And keeping rents slightly below market, it actually reduces the vacancy rate on a building. It reduces your risk of maintenance. It reduces risk of losing income. Out of all the properties, the portfolio that's owned, our our turnover ratio, what we call, is under 3%. While a lot of other properties, their turnover ratio hits about 8 to 10%. That's because they're always chasing for the top dollar. So so you need to understand how investors view risk when you present deals. Because when we do the pro forma, that's going to be the next class, which is market analysis. One of the things that we will touch on is how can we maximize this property's value. So one thing that I want you guys to really pay close attention to is what we just discussed right now. That risk element that an investor will look at. Nobody will tell you that that's what they're looking at, but believe me, that they are thinking about it subconsciously or without letting you know, because it is a risk, But the benefit is, because of the huge demand, the demand itself can be hedged, So two major things on these expenses. If we sell this property, that cap table, the capitalization table that I provided you guys, this is what most realtors get and put it on MLS, right? Remember I told you at the last class that 90% of the time the listing information is incorrect. Expenses. Why? Two major things: taxes, insurance, right? So one of the mistakes on this document, and I did this intentionally, right, is one, vacancy factor hasn't been taken into consideration. They didn't actually discount the existing taxes and insurance and place them with the new taxes and insurance. There is actually a tax portal that you could go to with the LA County Supplemental Tax Estimator, what it's called. And what that will give you is you could actually put a price of your purchase, the date of purchase, and it will tell you the tax rate for that city. For example, for the city of Downey, I already done this. It was 1.159, I believe. That's your tax rate. Can anybody tell me why the tax rate varies from city to city? Actually, first question: how are the taxes assessed? What proposition is it? 13. Now, what does 13 tell you? What is the county taxes? 1%. County taxes are only 1%. The rest is special assessments, bonds, sewer. For example, city of Compton, I believe they incorporate a trash as part of their tax assessment, right? Am I right? Who knows Compton, right? So would you believe me? Their tax rate is at 1.6. Downey's at 1.15. Now they always tell you, use a calculation of 1.25. Yes, you could use it as an initial assessment. I really recommend going to the supplemental tax estimator for the LA County and actually getting the actual tax rate for that city, because every city is different. Now, Orange County is a little different. You would just have to go in and you could actually see the tax bill and you could see the tax rate on it, and you have to do a little bit more work to assess what your supplemental taxes are. But at least LA County, they actually have a full estimator that will calculate those fees for you. Now keep in mind, this is an estimate. There's a big disclosure that says, do not use this for anything other than just for information, right? So we know those are the two things that I intentionally did wrong on this spreadsheet, But I wanted you guys to understand that because I kind of want that critical thinking being exercised in your mind, okay? As mentioned, zoning, land use, municipal code. I mentioned earlier, we as realtors, we have to see, is there a better use for the existing piece of parcel? Zoning laws they've been changing. Cities are getting a lot more lenient. They're allowing taller buildings being able to build in LA and Orange County. Well, LA at least. We have to understand: is there a benefit here or not? Can we actually pitch this deal Maybe not to, for example, you have a seller that says that he wants $4 million for a property, but as is, it's only worth 3. Okay. Why, if you could redevelop this into a larger, 4 times, 5 times the size of the existing building? Is there an upside potential for it? Absolutely, right? Would a developer buy it? Potential, you know? And of course, this is something that that takes a little bit more to assess, which we will actually talk when we actually talk about land deals and redevelopment opportunities. Okay, but I wanted you guys to just have just a basic understanding of it, just so you know you should take this into consideration. Okay. Any questions before I go to the next one?
What do you think is a reasonable size for a 2-bedroom apartment? Like, let's say you want to create an upside and you have a large 1-bedroom, and there's a possible upside of converting those into 2 bedrooms. What do you think is a decent size for a 2-bedroom?
So building code requires minimum requirements for a bedroom is 100 square feet. Minimum length and width is 10 by 10. So as long as you have that into consideration, and you have a big enough 1-bedroom and you can modify it that way, fine. I think you should jump all over it. Now, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. There's a property that we actually modified the units to a 2-bedroom, and technically we needed a permit, but we actually did a non-bearing wall, which doesn't, we're not making any structural changes, and they're a little bit below the requirements of the building code, but we actually converted it into a 2-bedroom. We actually gained about $300 extra a month in rents. That adds up, especially if you have 5, 6, 7, 8 units like that. It's a done deal. So, but there is a risk element that we have to take into consideration, because something happens, the city comes in, bangs on your door, and then he said, oh, you got to remove all of this. Now you're going to have to kick out your tenant and fix that, or fix it in the process. God forbid it's a rent control. It just creates more of a hiccup for you. So take into consideration those risks before you make those modifications. This was done with me suggesting not to do it, but I would do it because it's their property. It was their decision, right? All I could give them is the risk element and say, hey, these are the factors, these are the issues. If you want to do it, we could do it, But at least you disclosed it, and you no longer will be responsible for the mistake or the risk that they would have to take on, or the burden they would have to take on at a later date. Make sense? Let's go. You could actually ask the listing agent or the sellers, hey, what are your rent rolls? What are can you give me some basic information, right? You could do a site visit, look at the property, take some pictures. These are not complex elements that you need to do. But when you get into escrow, there's things that you actually need to do. You should inspect a property, right? I want to actually get somebody on the phone real quick. Now, Ian is one of my best property inspectors. He's certified on both the commercial and residential.
Hello.
Ian, this is Pavan.
Yes.
Okay, so Ian, I actually am in the class right now. I wanted you to just give a little background about yourself, as well as if you could give everybody some information on what they should be looking out for when they actually do a site visit of a property.
Oh, sure.
Can you guys hear?
My background, I started out in construction. Actually, my father was a contractor. So my brother and I were out on the job since we were just little kids, swinging hammers and digging ditches. And, he taught us how to do everything up to building a custom home. I worked professionally doing that through high school and outside of high school. And then I went and got my degree in construction management. So that's where I learned all of the inspection process, codes, and all of the building standards. And then in 2009, I was hired on by a private home inspection firm. And I worked for them for up until the end of 2016, when I started my own company, Fort South. So since 2009, I've done somewhere around 3,000 residential and commercial inspections. As far as commercial, I've done multifamily, warehouse, industrial, retail, restaurants. I've done actually quite a few different types of commercial properties.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. It seems like you have a more experience than I originally remembered, but that's also because it's been a minute actually. But can you at least tell everyone if they're actually walking a site for the first time, what key areas should they be looking for? As in, based on your experience as an inspector, I know there's a lot of telltale signs of issues that are relevant on just about every property, especially on the multifamily product.
Yes. So as you're doing an initial site walk, when you're going around the exterior, you really want to try to get an idea on the overall maintenance of the building, and you should be able to see the condition of the paint on the exterior and on the trim. You want to be looking for obvious things like broken windows, broken or deterioration, the stairways or railings. Look for any kind of displacement in the concrete walkways or driveways. Those are all things that you can kind of spot obviously. Now, a couple things you also want to keep an eye out for are for any upgrades. So if you do see vinyl trim windows or newer heating and AC systems on the outside, or if you see newer water heaters in a laundry room, those are all good signs that they've actually put some money into the property and kind of taken care of it. Now, one thing in my experience that I've kind of recognized, doing major renovations on a large commercial building can be very, very expensive. Re-roofing a building like that is very expensive, or repiping or replacing the electrical. And so in my experience, the owner tends to try to repair an existing system for as long as possible and try to get it, just kind of keep it working. And so, after 60 years of that, for an older building, it can only get repaired so much. And so by the time we inspect the building, you tend to see issues that no longer can be repaired. And so as you're walking through, you want to look for any signs that you haven't had any kind of regular maintenance or proper maintenance, and a lot of that can be pretty obvious.
Okay, that's understandable. Now, the property that we are looking at, it is in the city of Downey. It was built in 1958. We actually manage it, so some of the units have been upgraded. Some of them have dual pane windows, while others don't. Now, because it was built in 1958, basically some of the issues that we see is distribution of electricity throughout the buildings. What I mean by that is, tenants tend to bring in AC units, and properties that were built that age, they don't have enough juice to facilitate the power that's needed for some of this. Is this something that they should watch out for? And how is there a way to remediate or correct this to make it more efficient?
So this is a pretty common issue that we come across. Tenants will tend to, kind of overload the system, especially for older buildings where you only have 1 or 2 outlets in each room. You see, 10 power strips in each room too, where everything's plugged in. Now, the only way to really visually inspect this as you're going through the units, you can kind of check that out if you were able to walk through one of the interior of the units. A good way to also know is to ask a tenant if possible, and if they've had any tripping breakers or any issues like that, that's usually kind of a giveaway on the condition of the electrical system. As far as upgrading those systems, that can be pretty expensive. They would require a panel upgrade more often than not. Panel upgrades can vary in price, but it's usually a few $1,000s. And that would actually bring it up to more of a modern standard to where you can facilitate multiple things being plugged in and more of a draw on the electrical system.
Okay. Does anybody have any specific questions that you would want to ask an inspector when you guys actually look at another property? Jennifer, I know you always have questions. Come on.
I'm thinking, but no.
No, okay. Ian, thank you very much for giving us a few minutes of your time. I just wanted them to have a different perspective from someone that inspects a whole bunch of properties. Me as an investor, we're looking at the big picture while inspectors like yourself look at the details. We do have a question from someone. Would you have a few more minutes to answer it?
Oh, of course, yeah.
How much would it cost to inspect that building?
So we have a 12,000 square foot building, 20 units, 10 two bedrooms, 10 one bedrooms. The only amenity package that it has is a coin laundry facility, and it has a carport for 26 units, 26 spaces. Roughly, what would it cost to actually inspect something like this?
I usually, for me, I charge per unit. So I usually start the price at around 25 per unit.
Okay.
Yeah. So depending on how many units, basically, is what the cost of the inspection is going to be. Now, as far as the timeline for the inspection, I usually go into I try to get into each unit, and whoever you hire as an inspector should at least try to get into every single unit. Now, it's not always possible. Some tenants might leave or not want to stay. That's, we can argue so much there, but they should be getting into every unit. And so each unit should take about 10 to 15 minutes to go through and really look at everything closely. So yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of how many units and just a general time frame. So we want to make sure we have enough time so nothing's rushed.
Okay, so just to add to that, so if it's 20 units, is there a base fee that you charge? On top of that, you charge $25 per unit on top of it?
So it's $25 per unit, and then I usually charge a $150 to $200 site fee.
Okay.
And that's for the exterior. So I actually measure out the roof. I'll let you know the exact square footage of the roof. We'll go through, and that's just to kind of just do the stuff on the exterior. But each unit has its own price, basically.
Okay. So let's just say $200 plus another $500. So roughly $700 to, let's just say under $1,000 would be a good number to budget, correct?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Jennifer? Ralph, you had a question?
Follow-up, was the laundry room considered a unit?
Would the laundry room be considered a unit?
No, that would be included with the site fee.
Okay. Lydia, you have a question? Oh, you're just hiding from the sun? Okay, perfect. Hey, Ian, thank you very much, and I'll chat with you soon, bud.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
All right.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. I did have someone else. So one of the biggest things about property, you need to understand property history, right? You need to understand property records such as building permits. You need to understand how to read them, how to understand them. These are very important. A lot of property owners, what they tend to do is they try to Mickey Mouse everything. And there's a lot of telltale signs walking through a property on how it's being managed, okay? We actually have somebody that actually provides this service for a lot of realtors, investors, as well as landlords that are interested in buying or selling. His name is Marcus from Solutions for Properties. Hey, Marcus, are you here? Can you just give him your 2 cents on why this is important and disclosure elements required for this?
Sure. Hello.
Say hello, everyone.
Basically, I was invited to introduce my company to you. It's 29-year history, but I'm going to try to do it within about 5 minutes, actually. I started the company in 1989. I was going to USC and took on a side job going to the city halls and getting photocopies of all the building permits that were on file. Just spare money. I did that for a couple of years, and then once I graduated, I decided to start my own company where I went after all the title companies when it was legally allowed for the title companies to provide the building permits. So I got all the contracts for all the major title companies. I probably had like 80% of all the title companies. So basically, if you've ever received copies of building permits over the last 25 years, this probably came to my company, then it was passed on to the agent through my company. But then in 1999, what happened was the Department of Insurance, they passed prohibited activities for the title companies, what they can and cannot do. And one of the items is item number 6. It says obtain, prepare, order, amend, deliver, or explain building permits. So basically that put us basically out of business overnight. Basically all the title companies said, don't send me your invoices anymore. So I went from 15 employees to making a ton of money to on the verge of bankruptcy. So I said, how can I turn lemon into lemonade? So what I did was, at the same time, Senator came out with another law which mandated that the sellers provide to the buyer all the disclosures if you're in an earthquake, flood, fire. So what I decided was, it was amazing timing. I said, if I could produce the NHD report, which is mandatory by law, and I'm gonna incorporate it with all of the building permits, so I changed my name to Solutions for Property. So what it is, my company is a combination of the natural hazard disclosure report with the building permits report in one package, paid through escrow. So I just wanted to give you the history about that, so you know where I'm coming from. So my philosophy, actually, since I started a company, was that in the old days, it was buyer beware. When the buyer was supposed to find out all the building permit history, they said, go out to the city, go do your own due diligence, find out what's permitted, what you're legally buying. My philosophy is that I think when you're going to sell something, you should be able to provide to the buyer what they're buying. Like when you go buy a car. In the old days, they didn't have Carfax. They would just say, you know, go buy the car. If it breaks down, it breaks down. So what happened was, so basically what we became was almost like a Carfax for the real estate industry. You know, by us giving all the building permits, we're basically letting you know what's on file with the city, what's permitted and what's not permitted. The reason why you want to find out what's permitted and what's not permitted is because, first of all, the most important thing is when you're legally representing a property, if you're taking a listing, you should be able to market the property as what it really is. If you say it's a 2-bedroom, 3-bath, just because the title company says it's 2-bedroom, 3-bath, or whether it's 3 or 4 units, that doesn't mean it's what it says from the title company. It's inaccurate. The title company is totally inaccurate. It says on all the prelims, it says the information provided is deemed reliable but not accurate. The reason being is because the title companies get the information from the tax assessors, and then the tax assessor, they assess things whether they're permitted or not permitted. So when you see a title company and then you get the report, it says it's a 4-unit building, the tax assessor, if they physically see 4 units, they assess it as 4. They don't check the legality of the structure. Or what they do is they have aerials for the tax assessor, and if they have like garages and other structures, they'll start assessing those to gain valuation without finding out whether they're permitted or not, or whether they're livable space like garages. I have a 85-year-old friend of mine. She's been being assessed for a 4-unit for like 15 years, I just found out. And she only has a house with a garage and like 2 other small structures. She's been being assessed for like 4-unit building for like 15 years. Yeah, this happens all the time. Also, for instance, if you go pull a permit to build an addition and you never go through with the addition, the tax assessor will start assessing it, regardless of whether you actually went through with it. So they pick up the data and they start assessing it. So it's important to get the permits, I think, at the time you list a property to find out what you're legally representing. I think you have the right, it's your obligation to show the person what you're actually buying, not like a car where you just sell it and then they find out later that it's not what you said it was. Also, regarding the building permits, if you want to get a loan and it's not permitted, that's going to affect the valuation. Your comps is going to be different. If you have a 2-bedroom, 3-bath, that's permitted, and when that's not permitted, but you're using the same comp, it's inaccurate. Because what happens is, when you're going to get a loan on it, when you call the lender, and they pull the records and they find out it's not permitted, they don't give you that valuation. They won't lend on the property for that valuation. So basically, it makes you look stupid. It goes in the escrow. The seller says, why do you list my property at this price when this is not permitted? And then you have to try to justify yourself. Then the buyer runs away because you didn't disclose it properly. You don't get your commission. The seller's upset with you. It stays on the market. They think something's wrong with the property. And then the value comes down. I mean, there's a lot of reasons. So basically, the benefits of going through a third party like my company is that basically we take the liability. We've been doing it for 29 years. We've never been sued. We've done over 1 million researches. I can interpret all the building permits for your buyers, for all the lenders, underwriters. So basically, you shouldn't be disclosing everything. So that way they have all the facts. Otherwise, your potential could be sued. Yeah.
What's the cost of the NHD with the permits?
We charge, I have a flyer here. We charge $165, but it's payable through escrow. And if it doesn't close, you don't get charged. So here's the flyers actually. If you have any questions, actually, you can just call me if you're having issues with your properties.
So you get the permits up front when we order the NHD reports?
If you're the listing agent and you want the whole report, you can provide it the listing.
I have a question. Even if you say you assume the liability, and I'm a listing agent, and I have my seller buy your service, what's to stop a buyer from, if there's something wrong, from not just suing you, but dragging me as a listing agent and my seller into it anyway?
The only way you can get sued usually on building permits is that you misrepresented the permits. That's why if you get it from our company and you provide it to your buyer and you don't get involved with it, you say call this company, they're gonna interpret the permits for you whether it's legal or not legal. The lawsuits come from the interpretation or false interpretation. If you have a recreation room and you say it's a legal unit, when you know if you're an educated agent, a rec room's not a unit. So if you're saying it's a rec room's a unit when it's not legally, and you try to sell it, you get sued, it was for false representation of that. It was, but if you had them on the phone with me or you're with them, if they ask those questions, I can explain to them, that's not a legal unit, you could probably rent it out like Pavan was saying. But if you have an upset landlord, tenant, they're gonna go report you to the city, and they're gonna have you convert it back to its original integrity. So getting into a third party, if you're not interpreting the permits, is the reason why you wanna go to our company, basically. You just say, oh, I got all the information from this company, they're the ones who provided it. If there's anything wrong with, if anything was missing, you can sue this company, but don't get involved. That's the biggest issue, is agents think they know, how to interpret the permits, and they don't, and that's where issues arise.
Can I add something to what you just said? And then we'll get to you, Jennifer. So I had a situation. I was helping a buyer buy a property. The property was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2.5 bath, right? And when we actually, and the square footage was there, public records was there, like the assessors actually took all of that into consideration, right, already. And then what we found out during our permit review, is one of the bedrooms bath was actually permitted as a rumpus room, which is an enclosed patio, right? So it's necessarily not considered living space, right? Now, that creates a problem for you as you're representing your buyer, because one, it's not a legal bedroom, it's not a legal bathroom, and basically, I don't know how the assessors got it wrong, but the fact is, like he said, aerial views are done. A number of other different elements are taken into consideration by the assessor. At the end, the assessors just want their money. It's our job is to make sure that we protect our clients as much as possible. So there is a risk factor that you have to address. If I didn't know how to read permits, as a GC, I could go in and pull the permits and actually understand it, right? But someone like Marcus can actually provide you guys a service that all is already incorporated into something that you already have to give. You're already paying for it. Your seller is already paying for this. Might as well add this element in as part of this report. Would you agree?
Exactly. That's my concept that I created.
So, question. So for the listing side, I get it. For the buyer side, though, like if for negotiation purposes, this could really help out, right? So if you see something that you suspect that might be unpermitted and the price is kind of high, how much would it be just for the actual report?
Well, this is what I've been educating agents to do as well. If you have a copy of our flyer, I don't know if they've gone back to you guys yet. Inside of the purchase agreement, if you're dealing with a TC or the escrow company, you can write our company into the purchase agreement, it's the contract, and if you're in the buy side. Because the only other way to get permits through my company is through MasterCard or Visa. So I try educating the agents. All the agents want to get their credit card, so I say, why don't you just add the permits to your disclosure and bill through escrow? And same on the buy side, you just put us in that contract. So I have all my top agents that I started with on the west side, started ordering on the listing, and now they're counting out all the other disclosure companies, putting my company in the contract when they're on the buy sides. So you don't have to get them illegally, you don't have to do it yourself, you don't have to absorb the liability, just put us in a contract that comes in one complete package. Other people don't wanna see another disclosure report that's not as comprehensive as ours. They'd rather see my report.
Can I add to what you just asked regarding negotiation? I actually got a $25,000 reduction in price for my buyer, you know, because one, it was an illegal, the addition was not illegal, but it was categorized incorrectly, you know. So the fact is, remember, as a buyer, you do have negotiation powers, and if you provide the seller sufficient facts and it's justified, the reality is, if they pull the deal, they say, no, I'm not going to sell it to you, and they decide to sell it to somebody else, they have to disclose that,
To the new buyer.
because right then and there, they're in breach, you know? So, you know, and that's one of the things I always tell a seller, because I'm representing the buyer. I'm like, hey, these are our findings. And they say, we're not going to give it to you. I think you're making this up. I'm like, look, we're disclosing this to you. These are the facts. If you pull out, I'm okay with you pulling, you know, canceling the contract. But remember, now we disclose this, and this could be proven. If you don't disclose it to the next buyer, you're basically in breach, you know, and you could get sued. And I mean, I hate to use that scare tactic, but the fact is, it works. And literally got the $25,000 at that point, you know. Hey, every penny counts,
Yeah,
you know.
because they're gonna fall in the same ditch again, in the same hole. They're
Yeah,
gonna-
absolutely.
You just
And
bring it to their attention.
Here's the thing, and you know what happened? We got the 25. I went in and actually, you know, threw on my GC hat, got it permitted, and basically, and it actually cost me $5,000.
That's what I was gonna suggest.
Yeah, and it's easy because a lot of times all it is they want to make sure that it was, the city will just come in, verify what it is, they want the plans, and they'll just say, well, is it to code, you know? Sometimes it might make you open up some walls, you know, put it back together. They might want to verify the footings to make sure they're deeper, because living square footage has different size, you know, slab in comparison to other areas that are non-living areas. So they just want to verify some stuff. Long as some of it is done, you could get it fixed real quick, you know? So I got a $25,000 discount at a $5,000 cost. I mean, that's a 5x return for my buyer, you know? But you just need to know what you're playing with. So
A lot of times the sellers don't wanna disclose too, because they don't wanna, they think it's a problem. They don't wanna try to think of, it's a problem, let's deal with this before it goes in an escrow, before the buyers back out. Let's find out now why we have the listing, so by the time we find the buyer, we're working on the whole solution. By the time we get in the escrow, by the time you get the financing that you need, it's already worked out. People are the opposite philosophy was, let's not say anything until people find out about it, and let's try to fix the problem. Why not take it from the listing, try to work on it if there's a problem, so when it gets in the escrow, you're professional, you already saw that coming, from learning from this class or whatever, you already knew that you're supposed to do this from the beginning rather than wait. And the seller's gonna look at you like, why did I hire this agent for? They're trying to, you know, sell my house just to like get a commission, but they're not really looking out for my best interest and making sure they're doing it right, and it goes to escrow and it closes fast with no hiccups. The 9A report, the City of Los Angeles produces the 9A report. You guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
So basically, this is better than the 9A report. I'm always fighting with the city, escrows can't close because the 9A report comes back, the number of units is wrong, the sewer's not connected when it is connected. So I'm constantly disproving the city for the 9A reports to close escrows. I just always, you know, research we've had for 29 years is the 9A report. They don't really know how to do research. I mean, they have employees they've had for a year or 6 months, not like 29 years. So this one I have in particular, actually was with Jorge Mesa.
Oh, okay.
So they added 2 units to a single family, and the 9A report comes back with a certificate of occupancy saying it's a duplex. But I said, it's a duplex, but the other house was built in 1927. So I have to explain that to the city. You just can't look at on the computer for the most recent certificate of occupancy and say it's a legal duplex without doing all the research back to 1905. So now we have to try to fix the 9A report. Actually, they're not gonna fix it, even though I disproved them. I have to have the buyer with my logic go over it. I have to have the seller feel comfortable with my logic and with all my documentation that I support to close the deal and forget the 9A report that's inaccurate. So I do that kind of stuff too, I help close deals a lot.
So with the waiver, I'm assuming?
I don't know.
I mean,
what's gonna
that's
be,
basically
but
what's required, so.
Are you saying that this, you could, use this in lieu of?
Not in lieu of it, no.
So do you complete an IA report?
We don't compete or use an IA report, that's a city generated report, that's
So it's
produced by the
separate
city.
in addition to that?
It's separate,
Okay.
but if you have this, and a lot of times the 90 report takes more than 30 days or whatever, you can't close because the 90 report hasn't been in the file yet, you can maybe talk to the buyer and say, listen, I have the equivalent of the 90 report, it's more accurate, it's all right here what you're buying, you wanna sign off on the waiver, the 90 report is more accurate.
If you can't get the full report or the full disclosure, and if you wanna buy it, or a buyer wants to buy the service,
We charge a flat fee of $60. You can just go on our website, but that's the website now. You just go on
That's
there.
correct, right? Solutions for properties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just the permits.
This is wrong, this is wrong.
That's for the energy.
Oh, shoot, that's the wrong flyer. Uh-oh, I think I took the wrong, yeah, I took the wrong things here. I had this, some of them will have the
So if you
165
could,
on.
can you,
Yeah, I'll
this
send
has,
that so you can see
yeah,
everything.
I'll send everybody a copy,
Yeah,
so.
165, I know what I was like.
Yeah.
Does the report only cover local city permits, or does it also include the county permits? Because a lot of times there's a discrepancy, sometimes the local cities will lose permits, and they'll say something's not permitted when the county assessor's office does have those permits.
No, what I had to do with Jorge Mesa's client is, we go to the tax assessors, you get a letter notarized from the seller to go to like corroborate what you have from the tax assessor, but they're not actual building permits. We don't do that, we can't, because we can't get authorization from all the sellers. But in that situation, I did it as a courtesy, so I could get the tax assessor records, which showed the house in 1927 with the permit that I got from the city. So I showed that that was legally permitted in 1927, plus the duplex gets you a 3. The city would have never issued a certificate of occupancy for the new duplex, the 3 parking spots, if they didn't take into consideration that the single family was already there and that they needed 3 spots for the 3. So it makes sense. So,
To add to what he just said, remember the assessor's office, the building records that they get is just for assessment of property, but human error always happens. So so I look at both just like you. So we get the building records from the building department, and when you cross-verify what's happening on the assessor side, a lot of times, would you believe it or not, the assessors actually have the building plans that you could pretty much review if you get the right authorization. I mean, of course, if there's been situations where I couldn't get authorization from the architect to get those released because copyright infringement. But overall, at least I had the opportunity to review them and verify, you know. And believe it or not, that property that I told you guys about, that's how I did the cross verification and got the price reduction, you know.
and a lot of times with apartments, since this is a commercial class, when you're dealing with apartments, you may think you're selling a 4 or 5 unit building just because you see it's physically 4 or 5, and because the gas meters are there. The gas company doesn't, when you call the gas company or the electric company and say, can you install the gas meter or get service to my unit for water, they don't verify what building and safety, what's legally permitted by there. They just go ahead and put gas meter, they'll service you with water and gas. So an uneducated agent would say, has 5 meters, has 5 waters, it looks good to me. That's why I need to confirm with building and safety with my company that what's legally there is by the permits and the certificate of occupancy, which is proof of how many legal units there are. That's the only way you can prove how many legal units there are, with a certificate of occupancy. So you can't prove it from the gas meters or the water meters. The gas company, they don't check the legality of structures when they issue services to the building.
Any other questions, guys?
If you guys have any questions, even if you don't, purchase, if you have other pending properties or you're not able to use my company because the buying side put another company in contract or vice versa, but you need to get help with some of these situations, that's what we do as a courtesy to help you, like with Jorge's client, we help in that situation to help close an escrow. And they didn't even use my company, but, helping people close deals, get their commissions, and then hopefully in the future, they work with someone who can close deals, not just provide, a disclosure report. That's what we do, we help close deals. I'm on the phone with underwriters, with lenders, interpreting the permits to get the loans approved from explaining the square footage or how many units there are. So I'm a they're asking you guys to take advantage of if you want.
Trust me, guys, having that permit element as part of your report has a huge impact on what you can offer your clients, you know? And from a due diligence perspective, this is a line item. It's a must for me, for any investor that I work with. Every property that we work on, we review permits. We go through it with a fine-tooth comb just to make sure, is there anything that I can negotiate from, you know? So one of the things I want to mention, one of the main things that I always do, and I know this is contradictory to what we realtors are trying to do is sell, is find a reason why it doesn't make sense, you know? That's how I walk into a deal, you know? And if it doesn't make sense at the price or whatever the situation is, how can I negotiate that down to make it a value add for my client, you know? And it's just a way that it's been very, very useful for me. And having this added layer of documentation is going to be very useful for you and your client, you know?
Most of you guys, I'm not sure if you guys that escrow or the disclosure or the TC, or if you guys do it personally, but the only sure way of making sure that our company gets used is by putting us in the purchase agreement, in the contract. So whether you do it or whether the escrow company does it or whether the TC does it, if it's in the purchase agreement, no matter who's ordering, if they see it's in the contract, it becomes part of the transaction, so you don't have to worry about getting the report from us. So that's my suggestion if you want to work with my company. Okay, that's enough for me.
Hey.
Thanks a lot, Pavan.
Hey, thank you very
guys
much.
for everything, and give me a call if you guys need to get any interpretation of any billing permits that you may have.
Now, keep in mind, a lot of this stuff is, thank you, Marcus. A lot of this stuff is when you take the next step and actually get an offer accepted, right? But I wanted you guys to understand, this is part of the property research that you need. And this is always incorporated in the entire, in this case study format, okay? So all the beginning stuff that we talked about is just the finer detail, and this is when you actually dig in and find out all the good information that's going to be useful for you to either negotiate or just to confirm that this is actually a good buy, okay? Now we were supposed to have Pacific Coast Title to briefly talk about title elements, but they had a pressing matter to attend to. But one of the key things that I look at, you know, there's different schedules on title, right? Schedule 1, 2, and you know, or A, B, whatever it's called. But the biggest element I look at is, of course, liens and encumbrances are important because they might affect, if there's a tax lien, you're not going to be able to get this deal closed. For me, as a developer, one of the key things I look at is easements, because it impacts what you could develop on a property. If there is a value add, believe it or not, the first thing I ask Jorge is like, hey, pull me the record, give me a plotted easement, plotted map, parcel map. It tells me where all the easements are, where they're located, and what they are. You know, and if you get the hyperlinks for the title report, you could actually pull the actual the easement document, read it, and understand what impacts it has on the property. You know, and do you have control of getting this easement released or not? Most of the easements are just restrictive on a property. You should know. You know. Any questions about this? No. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So I do have homework for you guys. All right. Remember what I told you guys in the past. Each class will lead to another, you know, and we're going to build off each section. So this class was about property. You guys had all the rent rolls. You had the current expenses, and we're going to start developing the next section, which will be the actual the market analysis and research. And whatever we find there, we're going to compare what is currently to what it could be, and see if there's that upside potential for a property. At that point, we'll actually create the financial model, so that way we could actually pitch this properly. All right. Like I said, I want to teach you guys how to understand the data, before we actually understand how to sell something and how to utilizing different negotiating tactics, because those are going to be important, you know. So homework, and you guys have my email address here, okay, on the next page. So I do want you guys to conduct a quick site visit. Just look at the property, take a picture of the front, look at the neighborhood, look at what amenities that the neighborhood offers. As in, is there a park nearby? Is there what type of fast food chains? Is it walking distance? And I want you guys to give me some bullet points on what makes this location attractive or not attractive. You know, this is important because when you do an operating memorandum, when you do an investment perspective, or what I call a pitch deck, these are elements that are going to help you really concentrate and pitch the deal on their pros and their cons. On their cons, how are you going to overcome them? You know, is there mitigating factors that could help you push this over the top, or can it be used as negotiating tools, right? For me, the more problems it has, more power, because I'm going to negotiate the hell out of it, you know, and that's something that we have to be prepared for. We just can't be a salesperson and push through and say, well, we'll just go with the flow, okay? You could probably get away with it right now, but believe it or not, in the next 10 years, it's shifting. The market is shifting to a point where the skill sets that we will need as individuals has to be at top notch. It's not just about sales, it's about advising people to make sound financial decisions, you know? And commercial real estate, you better know your stuff, okay? So, in saying that, you will conduct a site visit. You could give me a call and let me know if there's any questions, but go there, just prepare a quick outline of your findings, you know, understand the site location and surroundings, and it can be used as an effective way to actually pitch this deal. You had a question real quick?
Any site or this site?
This site, because this is going to be a case study format. We're going to do this deal all the way until creating a pitch deck. Yep, that's the one. You know, just go take a quick picture in the front. That's all. You know. Now, it's two folds for me. Okay, one, it tells me that you are interested in moving forward and understanding the brass tacks of a deal. I told you guys at the beginning, if you guys are good, I might actually ask you guys to come on board and be part of these larger projects that I am working on. And basically, you will have an opportunity to truly learn the brass tacks of development, brass tacks of all these different types of assets, how we actually go about negotiating deals, you know, how we structure the financial mechanics behind it, you know. But if you don't have the basics, we can't move on to the next step. Is that fair? So, like I said, take pictures, do a general outline, you know. Just give me a brief write-up on the property with its specs and its amenities, which some of it is already in this package, okay? Now, I want you to do something too. Who has Excel here? Excel? Okay, the ones that don't, $99, guys. You could get Microsoft Office 365 for $99 a year. It'll give you Word, PowerPoint, Excel, all the key elements that are needed for us to actually create a solid pitch deck. If you guys can't see, want you guys want to sit in the front right here? Because I'm gonna share something that I want you guys to create this Excel model that's going to actually prepare us to go to the market analysis section, from there to our financial model section. You can. I want you guys to really get in the habit of having the full service. Okay? Here's the thing, guys. There'll be times that you're not going to have access to the internet. I'm just saying. I'm not saying all the time, but there will be times. Okay? You need to have this on your computer. And if some of the things that I'm going to teach you especially when we go after the market analysis, market research, when we get into the financial modeling, I'm going to give you guys formulas. I'm going to give you guys tools to quickly make an assessment, how to create the model. All right? It'll be good for you guys to have the actual full service on your computer, laptop, whatever the case is. Okay? So the preparation of the rent rolls and the expense summary. So I already gave you guys a sheet. Is this it? Actually, I'll take it out. Now, I gave you guys a breakdown of what it is, right? So on Excel, I want to initially have 2 sheets. You guys know what I mean by sheets, right? Who doesn't know it? Raise your hand.
I'm assuming you mean a page on Excel?
Yeah. So Excel is, so you have your main sheet, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4. That's how Excel is set up, and you can add as many sheets as you want. All right? When we actually develop a financial model, I guarantee you're going to use multiple sheets, so that way you could actually refer back and forth, and also those sheets will be tied together. This will actually help us quickly be able to present an opportunity to an investor by creating the financial model. Some investors just want to see the numbers. Some investors want the broad strokes of the deal. Some investors want to understand some market elements. That's why all of this is important. So when you do this, it's a black one. Oh, thank you. So sheet 1, just like you have, recreate the unit mix and the rent rolls on sheet 1, which has the pro forma, which also has the actuals. Now, I know I could just email you guys this. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not just going to give you a free pass. I need you guys to learn how to put this together. Okay? That's the only way you're going to truly learn. Okay? And if
Unit mix and rent roll?
yeah, so the first part.
First part is sheet 1.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. So I am going to make you guys work for it. So and I think it'll be a good exercise for you guys. Yeah. Whoever heard of Common Core? They teach it in school now, So, the implementation was poorly done on how they just rolled it out all the way across the board. But the idea really is give you the long version of everything, right? So they make it much, much tougher. But it helps people, if it's done right. If they would have rolled it out as first kindergarten, and then this first grade, and then the second grade, instead of just throwing it out for everybody to take on and just switch everything up, it would have been a lot more effective way of doing it. But other countries, like India, for example, that's how they teach. They teach you the long version, and they'll give you the shortcuts later. Over here, we want it easy. So it's fine. It is what it is. But I truly want you guys to go through it as an exercise. So you're going to create this spreadsheet. You guys know how to do basic sum formulas, SUM? Okay, if you do. If you don't, just let me know. Give me a call, and I could actually walk you through it. Just if you're going to give me a call, we'll set up some time blocks where I could actually quickly run it by you guys. Maybe if there's a few of you, we could use an application called TeamViewer, where I could show you how what those formulas are, so that way you could put this together for yourself. Okay. So after you do this, on sheet 2, I want you to start putting together an income statement. Okay. An income statement. I guess this is not a good pen. Sorry guys, I suck at writing, as you can tell. I have an accountant's writing. Sometimes they say I'm a doctor. So we have revenue on the second page, right? So we do the rent rolls, all of this information right here, okay? All the way across. This top portion, right? I want you to do it on sheet 1. On sheet 2, we're going to create an income statement, which is a profit and loss, basically, right? You know, so we have our revenues, which is the sum at the bottom, the $252,000, which will transfer over to this sheet 2, and then we will minus vacancy. Who knows what a GOI stands for again from the last class? There you go. So you'll have your gross operating income. Okay? From there, we'll have your expenses. And I gave you expenses right there. Okay? And I want you to detail everyone out. Expense 1. Expense 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down.
I missed the first class. What is your percentage for vacancy?
I gave it to you on the sheet.
Okay.
I gave it to you at the bottom. You see it? So vacancy factor, I want to use 5% because this is a multifamily. That's what lenders are going to use. Remember what I told you on the last class? This property has a 0% vacancy. City of Downey's market research tells me it has a 1.9% vacancy. Lenders automatically use 5%. So you use the worst number possible, which is 5%. Okay? You guys know how to do calculations on the multiplication on Excel, right? If not, I could show that to you guys too. Okay? From there, you subtract your GOI with all your expenses, which will give you what they call, what do they call this? And what does NOI stand for? Okay. So what does sheet 1 have? Rent rolls, okay. What does sheet 2 have? Income statement. Okay. Like I said, if you guys need help, just ask. We're more than happy to help you guys because honestly, every step of the way, we're building to the next stage. And I don't want you guys to fall behind because when we go to the market research, we're going to really dive in to creating what could be in the future and how it's going to impact your client, and what steps are required to get it to that level, okay? And then this is the first step, is creating, when we go to class 3, when we actually design a full financial model, okay? And then we'll start creating the pitch deck. Fair?
Yep.
Any questions? I know this was a boring class, a little bit.
You want this report in a PDF format, Word format?
Do you guys have PowerPoint?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. If you want to do it in Word document, please go ahead and do the first portion in Word. The second portion in Excel. Now, you guys have to get familiar in naming your files properly, right? So I have folders for days for all types of stuff. So I have a method to my madness that works for me, okay? So normally for me, I always put the property address dash what it is. For example, if it's a profit and loss or a financial statement, and dash date, In your case, I want you to put your name dash street name and date. Now you could put W for a Word document, E for Excel, P for PowerPoint, just so what it is. When you start doing larger deals and when you start analyzing more complex elements, you need to have a method to your madness. As Cynthia will tell you, naturally, that's a long conversation. Let's not get into that right now. Right, Cynthia? Any questions? So
So the first, four bullet, well, the first section before I say the rent roll, we do, obviously on Word. type
Yeah.
it out, and the rest.
just one thing.
Basically,
One,
two documents.
yeah, 2 documents, 2 pages. You know, and keep in mind your outline is if it's in Word, it's just you're taking a picture, putting it on a Word document, and giving me a quick write-up. The reason I want you to do this is because you need to be able to articulate information on paper. You know, you're not going to be able to talk to investors all the time. You're not going to be able to say, "Hey, dear investor, let's have a quick conversation. Send me the information. Let me review it." If this will also help you guys improve your business writing skills, which is important because business writing to literature is totally different things. You know, it is. It just works differently. Do anybody need help on the Excel side? Because I know everybody knows how to write a Word document. So, huh? Yeah, sure. Okay, and you too?
Yeah, if you're going to do that conference that you said you were going to do, I want to be part of that.
Okay.
Teach people how to do the sums.
Okay. Perfect. I could do it. And I want to do it all at once, just because I've been extremely busy lately, but I want to make sure that you guys all get it, you know. And if we need to, maybe I could spend 20-30 minutes this coming week, and come here and we could do it in this area when there's a free time, and I could talk to Monica and see when there's some free time. And maybe we just take about a half-hour time so everybody can quickly understand how to do the formulas.
One thing, I was thinking, I could get away with punching in what you got right here, right?
Mhm.
You know, just copy and type it out and
Yeah.
put it in Excel. But you mentioned something about learning sums, so
Mhm.
I'm not asking you to do the class if you're not going to. But if you are, I'd like to be part of it.
Yeah. So on the rent rolls on sheet 1, the only calculations on the sums are at the very bottom when you're adding up all the rents for all the properties, for all the units, right? It's basically, let me not give you the formula right now, but if you want it, I could give it to you. You know, basically, it's equals sum, parentheses, from, in this case, it's, let's just say, unit. So how Excel is designed is, you know, there's rows going across, columns going down, right? So going down is letters, going across is numbers. So you always have a column. So for example, if this is in column, let's just say B, and it's in row 4, right? You put a colon because you're doing a series of space.
I think that's like for an advanced class. Basically highlight all the numbers
Yeah.
and leave one spot open at the bottom and hit the sum button.
There you go.
Wait,
Uh-huh.
so how is that, can you do that? Because I remember, I did
So-
have in class in school, but I forgot, so can you do that?
So Rick,
too, yeah,
that's a shortcut.
Yes, for
I'm-
now, for us beginners.
I want you to understand the formula.
Yeah.
All right, it's important.
So
Okay.
equals sum before, then
Yeah.
the colon, then what?
And then what's the bottom? Let's just say it's 20 units, right? So it'll be B24, close parentheses, and press enter, and it'll give you the numbers.
So that row will be.
Voila. Yep. It's pretty simple. And we'll actually can do a quick Excel course. I'll tell you how formulas are put together. That way you'll have a better understanding on how to do that. So, okay, just a quick recap. 2 documents. One is a Word. Second is Excel, which has 2 sheets. You're going to name them your name dash street name dash date. That way I know who's sending it to me, because I'm going to download these and review these. And if I put it into a folder and it just has I won't know.
By when do you?
By when?
Good question. So 1 week. I want to review it because here's the thing, guys. I'll give you guys feedback because next Tuesday.
That's the next class?
No. 1 week, next Tuesday. What is it? It's 7/24/2018. Sorry, I should have put this on this. I apologize. Now, I'm going to always give you guys feedback because that feedback, my goal is to help you guys improve. If there are certain areas that you guys can improve, I want you to get better at it before the next class, or at least understand it in your mind, so that way when we go on to the next class, you'll actually are able to move forward faster. I don't want you guys to fall behind, because I guarantee you, the next class is going to get tougher, more complex, because there's a lot of qualitative elements. And then the next class, without these 2, we're going to get really, really into the mathematics of it. Fair? No, that's when it's due. Due date. In about 2 weeks, I think.
Oh, you'll let us know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair?
Sounds good.
I did have a question for just a few of you guys. One takeaway you got from this class?
Gotta learn how to use other programs.
Okay.
One really good one that I got was keeping the rents a little below market.
Oh, yeah.
So lower your turnaround.
Reduce the turnover ratio. Yep. Yeah, and trust me, not a lot of realtors understand that, but it's a huge impact when it comes to understanding finance, right? So.
Just the city permits aren't always correct. They just want the money, so.
Assessor is not always correct. Permits,
I'm seeing.
yeah. So yeah, absolutely. But permits are important for you to understand. I'll be honest with you, they're tough to read. But if you can understand them, I guarantee you could do so much more to help your investor. Huh? Marcus is an amazing person to work with, guys. You should really reach out to him. Even on your single family homes, honestly, it's good to know that information. And if you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone with the NHD report and the permit history, it's a done deal. What is it, an extra $20, $25 than what you would pay on a normal NHD? It's chump change. Yeah, even $60, and you don't have to do it. Charge it to your seller, charge it to your buyer. Tell them this is part of your inspection cycle. Pay for it. It's a huge benefit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, dude. I mean, you don't know how many times I use permits for negotiation, and I would say about 7 out of 10 times I got a price reduction, just simply because I presented facts in a certain way. And after all of this class is done, we're going to teach you guys more on the negotiation techniques that you should know as an individual, and how this data that you gathered in these last 5 class sessions are going to help you be able to be a very good negotiator and be able to articulate that information properly. Who else had a question?
I just have a question. When are we gonna go together to the room? You said we're gonna go to a site.
Yes, so this is the property, this property. Yeah, so I kind of want you guys to just go on your own and honestly, if you guys want to call me and meet up, here's the thing. We just didn't want 50 people showing up at this property and say, "Hey, what's up?" As much as I would love to see you guys and hang out at the property and just do the show and tell, I think it might scare some tenants away.
So that's
You
what,
know?
yeah, they're gonna be wondering what in the world's
Yeah,
going on.
and
Yeah.
they might come and threaten me, say, "I'm going to move." I'm like, "Okay, let me give you a recommendation letter." I might have to use that line over and over and over.
Or, oh, they're selling the property. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, this was your property, then? Your family?
my family's.
Okay, good. Okay.
So, yeah, but I still don't want to scare the tenants away with
Okay.
50 people showing up.
Yeah.
Maybe not a good idea, right? You had a question?
I missed the first class, I don't know.
You missed the first class. So, okay, so I need to get you the PowerPoint presentation.
I'll shoot you an email.
Yeah, now keep in mind, this class, I'm glad you're here because this is the core. Do not miss the rest, the next three, because if you miss one, a lot of the stuff I'm gonna show you guys is gonna go over your head, because the introduction class was just an intro of how this is structured and what you're gonna get out of it, right? But moving forward, this was a lot of data that I threw at you guys. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you start putting stuff together, trust me, the property section, the market section, the financial models, and then you actually create the big picture. You're gonna have a 20-slide pitch deck, and it'll really, really help you guys, So don't miss the next two or next three, okay? Any other questions? No? I know I asked you guys a question about what's your one takeaway. One of the things I would recommend is I would love to get your feedback on camera. Who's up for it? Francis? Anna? Scared of the camera? Yourself? Camera shy? I'll be honest with you guys, I'm camera shy myself. You see my other videos? I was forcing myself to talk. This is a little bit easier because it's something that actually it's easy. It just comes naturally, right? But if I have to force a script on me, I'm like, oh my God, it scares the hell out of me. But hey, I'm getting through it one step at a time. I have a great marketing director that's been pushing me all the time. Although I sometimes under my breath cuss him out, but that's okay. He can handle it. And of course I have Cynthia that's been jumping down my throat, and Brian. So yes, yeah, brownie points, right? Perfect. Hey, thank you guys for coming out to this class. I hope you guys had a lot of things that you guys were able to absorb. Like I said, let me figure out what day in the next couple of days to spend about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Does evening work for you guys the best?
Yes.
Like 30 minutes at an evening time?
Yes.
Can you? Huh?
How will you let us know? Smoke signals, that's how we're like,
Yeah.
That's how, be ready, look up into the sky and be like, all right.
Yes. Yeah. No, do we have all your contact information on the sign-up sheet? You do. Because that's the sheet that I'm going to use to email everybody. Okay?
There are new sheets in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Who didn't sign up? Sign in.